Now be able to speak to, we have two new members of this committee, and they have been, frankly, they've been a dramatic impact already. And so the first one will be Mr. Carl, and it's a privilege to have you on the committee, sir. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us today, and I've really enjoyed hearing all these different topics and conversations, but I'd like to talk to you about one that's close to home for me, and I'll start with that. In the news lately, the direct impact in the state of Alabama. Last Tuesday, the Mexican government began seizing the assets of Vulcan Material Marine Terminal facility there in Mexico. Mm-hmm. I read your statement of the department claiming that, in a quote, you're concerned about the fair treatment of our companies in Mexico. Mm-hmm. Frankly, Mr. Secretary, I find that to be pretty weak, considering you just had an American company's assets seized. I really am very concerned about other American companies that are there that they will seize. So I think you need to put a little stronger statement together. Tell me, please explain to me or elaborate on how the State Department actually plans to ensure that security is fair and for these companies, fair treatment of our companies abroad.
No, I appreciate you raising that, and I think you're right. I have to tell you, I am very concerned about the fair treatment of our companies in Mexico, both just in terms of the larger environment in which they're operating, something that we've engaged President Lopez Obrador repeatedly, but I'm also very concerned about the situation. I think you're referring to Vulcan Materials. Yes. In this case. Very concerned about that situation. We've had our team on the ground, as well as from back here in D.C., very actively engaged on this. We've been requesting information from local authorities, as well as from the federal government about the military and police presence in.
If I can interrupt you there, I was in Mexico City. I was in Mexico City 3 weeks ago. I met with the president for 3 hours. I met with their Interior Department for 2 hours. I was assured that it was about to be worked out, and I get back to find out they've been overrun by the military. Yeah. That is not diplomacy right there. I'm really fearful for all the other companies we have there, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No, can I just say, but I think your point is extremely well taken, because besides this particular case, the potential for a case like this to have a chilling effect on further investment or engagement by our companies as they see what's happening should be a real concern to the federal government in Mexico.
So Vulcan Materials out of Birmingham, Alabama has invested billions of dollars up there in that facility that the Mexican government is now going to turn into a terminal. I know I don't need to tell you, but for the record, the mission of the State Department is to protect and promote U.S. security, prosperity, and democracy values, and shape the international environment, if I read that correctly, in which Americans can thrive. Mm-hmm. And I don't think what's happening with Vulcan is a good example of where that fits. My question is pretty simple, because I'm running out of time here too. Tell me how $20,600 sent to the State Department to fund drag performances at a culture event in Ecuador, or $300,000 grant opportunity for the U.S. Embassy in Botswana to support the LGBTQIA plus groups. I realize the numbers are a very small scheme here, but I'm just curious how we can spend money on these issues outside this country, and it fits within the prelude of the definition of your department.
So, a couple of things on this. First, we are engaging around the world in cultural diplomacy. We're engaging in also making sure that we're doing what we can to help protect the rights of marginalized groups, including notably the LGBTQI plus community, which in so many countries around the world is under threat, and in many cases under growing threat. And I believe that it's fundamental to our democracy to demonstrate that we are looking out for marginalized populations, whatever they may be. We do the same thing with persecuted religious minorities around the world, something also of deep concern to me and to the department. On the cultural programming, look, in this particular instance, the particular program you mentioned in Ecuador, that actually didn't go forward. The grantee, in this case, decided to put a halt to it. You or I may not have chosen to fund this particular program, I think picking, you know, one program out of the many that we do for particular scrutiny, I don't think is an accurate reflection of what we're doing. But in this particular case, it didn't go forward. Now, I have to tell you, maybe it's just me. I remember a time when I think the most popular movie in the United States was Tootsie, and then a little while later it was Mrs. Doubtfire, and then we had The Birdcage, all movies that I loved. So on one level, I got to say, I'm just not sure I get what the concern is about, but I also acknowledge that, again, you or I might not have chosen to fund this particular program.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.